Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, The Upper Hand. Today we're going to be mixing it up a little bit. We're going to be talking about LaMelo Ball. If you're familiar with him, you know that he is an NBA basketball player for the Charlotte Hornets. He recently fell on an outstretched hand. Reports are saying that he has a fractured wrist. Those reports are not yet confirmed, but I'm going to give you a little insight on his injury. Most likely the bone that he fractured, healing time, will he be back this year? Can he still win Rookie of the Year? Or will Anthony Edwards take over due to his absence? So let's just look at the play first. So he's driving, goes up for a layup, and immediately you can see both hands falling. He tries to catch himself on that outstretched hand, as we mentioned earlier. This is also known as a foosh, fall on outstretched hand. A lot of times this results in what we call a distal radius fracture, which, to be honest, when I first watched this video, that's exactly what I thought it was, especially as the reports were coming out saying that it was in fact a wrist fracture. However, the reports are saying that he had an x-ray, but he needed an MRI as well. With an x-ray, you're almost always going to be able to pick up a distal radius fracture pretty easily. With a scaphoid fracture, which I'm going to show you here on the diagram and the model here in just a second, scaphoid fractures are sometimes a lot more difficult to pick up on an x-ray, hence the reason that he needed an MRI. He is getting a second opinion to check and see if the correct diagnosis was given. But if I was a betting man, I'd be willing to bet it was a scaphoid fracture, and let me tell you why. So if you look at our model here, okay, so here's the palm side of the right hand, which was his injured hand, the dominant hand. If you zoom in here, you see all these little small bones in the wrist. These are called carpal bones. The scaphoid is this bone right here. Go ahead and light that up green. Here's your radius, here's your ulna. Again, a lot of times we see distal radius fractures. There's pretty clean break right across this right here, this area right here. It would be fairly easy to pick up on an x-ray. That's why I believe that this is likely not a distal radius fracture. Also, they're projecting to be out for the year. With a distal radius fracture, I would expect him to be back around the 6-week mark, maybe 8 weeks. But with 2 months or so left in the season, I would expect that he would be able to return before potentially the playoffs. We know that they're in that 8 spot right now, so they're battling for a playoff spot. But anyway, so scaphoid fracture. The reason these heal a little slower than one of these bigger bones up here, like the radius or the ulna, is because of its lack of good blood supply. With the scaphoid, and I'm going to draw a little line right here. Let's just say his fracture was in this more distal area of the bone. That would be a good sign, or that would be good for him, because this part of the bone has great blood supply compared to the rest of the bone. So it's innervated, or the blood supply that feeds the most distal portion of the scaphoid is the radial artery. And the artery kind of, even though it's coming from this direction, it comes and kind of circles around and inserts or attaches itself right here to the distal pole, working its way back up. So somebody that has a fracture towards the distal end of this scaphoid here, more likely to have a good union and a good fracture healing versus someone that fractures this proximal pole here due to its lack of blood supply. So let's hope that LaMelo got this end down here and not something in the proximal region, or that would certainly mean that he would be out for quite a while, as this bone again does take a while to heal. So see our little fracture line there. Let's go, let me just draw this a little so that you can see that a little better. So there's your good blood supply area here, and the further you get down in this direction, the worse that blood supply is going to get, which is going to be harder for that fracture to heal. Just to show exactly how LaMelo fell, exactly like this model here. He was falling back, the brunt of his force and the brunt of his weight all went onto that wrist. All of that force transmitted up through the carpal bones, through all those ligaments, the radius and the ulna. Again, very common to see a fracture after a fall like this. And if you go back to the video, he actually tried to come back in and play, surprisingly. And you could see that the trainer had kind of taped that wrist up some. And you could see that it was coming around and supporting the thumb area right through that web space. So clearly he had some pain going on in that thumb. The trainer's kind of feeling around in that radial wrist area. A lot of times you can assess a scaphoid fracture by depressing or putting some pressure in the anatomical snuff box, which you can actually palpate the scaphoid through that area. And I'll put a little picture up there about what that is. The more we're learning about this, I believe it's going to be a scaphoid fracture. If so, he'll likely have to have surgery. He'll likely have to have a little small pin placed in that bone to help with the healing. I do expect him to be out, 8 weeks plus, so I wouldn't imagine that he would be able to finish the end of the season. However, if they did go into the playoffs and they were to make a run, or for some reason the fracture is not as bad as a typical one, maybe it's just a hairline fracture, then there's always a chance that he could make it back. So let's hope for the best for him. For his sake, this is not by any means a career-ending injury. He's going to recover from this. He's going to do fine. It will just take a little bit of time. Alright guys, so thank you for joining in today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button for us. Hit the subscribe button. Share with a friend that may be a LaMelo Ball fan or just an NBA basketball fan in general. Leave us a comment if you enjoyed this material. We would love to do some more of this type of videos if that's something that you would like. We'll see you guys next time.